Marvel Snap is the latest in a long series of mobile games that adapt the world of Marvel superheroes. After many open betas, this highly anticipated Marvel card game was officially released on October 18th, 2022. Though there was some controversy surrounding the game before its launch, after release it seems to be highly celebrated. So on today's video, I'm going to be going over my early thoughts on Marvel Snap.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 121st. So before we get into the video, I wanted to give a couple of disclaimers up front. Most importantly, like my other first thoughts and early thoughts videos, this is not a scripted out review. This video is just me with a list of talking points going over my stream of consciousness thoughts on Marvel Snap. So I just wanted you to keep that in mind in case I get any details wrong about the game, or in case I change my opinions on the game going forward. In addition, all of my gameplay from this video is from the PC version of Marvel Snap. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into my early thoughts on Marvel Snap. So before we get into my thoughts on Marvel Snap, I wanted to give a quick background on my history with games like this in various different ways. So first of all, I'm really not a fan of mobile games. I really don't like mobile games at all. There's a big world of Marvel mobile games, which is pretty cool, honestly, that there's so many different video games made for Marvel that are adapting these characters. But, you know, I've either not played all of these mobile games or played, you know, many of them and not really enjoyed them. And that's for a couple different reasons. First of all, I do think that, you know, not to insult these people's work, you know, the people who work on these mobile games, but I do think that I'm not a big fan of a lot of the design around gameplay when it comes to many mobile games. I feel like many of them are a little too hands-off or a little too simple. Again, I think that's by design. I think some people like to have those kind of simplistic games on their phone, but I'm just not super into that. And then the other reason is because I just hate playing games on my phone. I think, honestly, for over half of these Marvel mobile games, if they were available on console or PC, I would actually give them a shot more often, and I would probably play them more frequently. You know, Marvel Strike Force is a great example of a game that I would probably play more if it was available on PC or console. So that's a really big factor when it comes to me playing or not playing a Marvel mobile game. So when it comes to Marvel Snap, one of the first things that makes it appealing to me is that it's available on PC as well as mobile devices. That is a huge part of why this game is immediately attractive to me and why I've played so much of it. The next thing I wanted to say is that I have a long history with card games, and especially Marvel card games. But in general, I love card games. I love TCGs. I'm a big collector of cards. You know, as a collector of comics, I also like to collect cards, but I also love games and playing games. So Pokemon cards, for example, I love collecting Pokemon cards, but I also like the game. I like to play Pokemon. I also like multiple other Marvel card games because I'm, you know, a fan of playing Pokemon. You know, when I was collecting that card game, I was like, oh, I wish that I could play, you know, with my favorite, you know, collection of characters, my favorite universe of characters, the Marvel Universe, with similar rules, because I really do enjoy playing like this, you know, in the world of Pokemon. And so while I've played other Marvel card games and really enjoyed them, there is something, again, really cool about having a new Marvel card game, and especially a digital Marvel card game. You know, I really love Pokemon TCG Online. I feel like that was such a great way to play such a great game. I love the Pokemon card game, and to have it, you know, sleek and kind of, you know, straightforward put into a video game that I could play on my PC, that was very appealing to me. And so with both of those things said, let's finally talk about how I feel about Marvel Snap, talk about my first impressions of Marvel Snap, and you know, my thoughts are that I absolutely love this game. I adore this game, and I'm so happy that I do. I was very excited about it when it was first announced. Again, I saw the title Marvel Snap and I saw the trailer. The trailer, was very clearly not gameplay, and the name was so vague that I was like, okay, this is going to be a mobile game. Let's see what it is. And then it showed me card game mechanics, and I was very, very excited, and I was on the hype train, pretty consistently after that. Now, there was some controversy over microtransactions in the game. And from what I had heard, I really disliked the model that they were adopting. But to their credit, after that kind of came out, it seemed as if they listened to the community and the frustration and the criticism from the community, and they altered their monetization model. And I first of all, just in general, listening to the community and to their potential player base, very smart, I think. But in addition, I think they have a much better monetization model now, that is so, not intrusive, that not only is it, makes me comfortable to play the game, but also it encourages me to actually engage with it and spend money on it. But anyway, to focus more so on the game, I love the way, the main thing about this game is I love the way that it plays. It feels good to play the game. It just is a well-made video game, in my opinion. But more than anything else, the gameplay. They created a really great set of rules here that I find really fascinating. When the game was first announced, they had this trailer that was kind of like, the quote that they keep going with is "no filler." And in the first trailer that they put out, they talked a lot about, like, how or maybe they insinuated, I don't know, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they talked a lot about how, like, card games have all this, waiting, and we wanted to cut out all the waiting. And I was very bummed out by that, because in my head, I'm like, why would you, you're trying to get people who like card games. Why would you talk smack about card games? Why would you insult card games? So that was another comment where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, they're pitching me a card game by telling me that it's not like other card games because it's not boring. And it pitched this idea of very quick gameplay, which I'm not somebody who likes fast-paced stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's even true. I play Doom Eternal, so maybe I do. But there was just something where I was like, this sounds a little, I don't know, I'm worried. But again, to their credit, the 6-turn system and the fast gameplay works well. They created something that is very fun, that is very kinetic, that is fast, and that feels natural. And this 6-turn system, it feels like forever. It feels like a long battle. It doesn't feel like, something short in the best possible way. You know what I mean? And then at the same time, I also love how quick these matches are. So I can't praise this enough. I don't have the words to praise this enough at the moment, but, believe me when I say, I just think they did an amazing job with the gameplay here. And as a fan of card games, and as a fan of Marvel, as a fan of video games, this is super exciting to me, and it's the reason I'm so hooked on this game. I love Marvel Snap, and the first reason is because the gameplay is just so fantastic. They did such a good job designing this game. The second reason is that it's available on PC, which we've already talked about, but I can't stress it enough. If more Marvel games were available on PC, I would play them more. I'm so happy that this is on PC, because I would feel so upset if I missed out on this. And kind of like the monetization thing I mentioned earlier, I am my current phone and my current tablet does not run this game. Unfortunately, it cannot. It just, they aren't powerful to run it. But when I do get a new phone, I'm excited to play this on my phone, not because I like playing games on my phone, but because I like this game. I don't like playing games on my phone, but I love this game, and I would absolutely love to play it there. But I would love to see this game on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch as well. And I hope that they consider making ports, because I would gladly get it, on multiple different consoles. Now, with that being said about the PC port being available, I love that it exists, but I do also wish that we had a better version of it. Basically, what I mean by that is the PC version of this game is just like an iPhone screen, essentially, a smartphone screen with a universe background. You can see the gameplay, in this video. While again, it's functional, right? Like, I'm just happy we have a PC version. I do wish that it had a more intuitive design for PC, a more, you know, a design that made more sense for PC, maybe something like Hearthstone, that where it takes up the entire screen, or Pokemon TCG Online. That's something that I really do wish, or that I hope improves in the future. But with that being said, another one of the things I wanted to praise about this game is the artwork. Artwork is a huge part of this game, and I think they've done a really great job at centering artwork as the star, and choosing a number of artists that really reflect the Marvel universe well. I think it's really cool how many artists they have, uh, collected for this game. And as a fan of the comics, it's so cool to see so many different artists show up. Um, and it's so cool to see these characters depicted in so many different ways. Again, talking about monetization, the way monetization works in this game is you can buy variant covers for each of your cards. Totally cosmetic monetization, where if you have a Mr. Fantastic card and you don't like the way his art looks, or you just see a card that, in the shop where you like the art better, you can buy that artwork and it just changes the appearance of your card. And I think that's fantastic. And again, especially as somebody who loves comic book artists and somebody who loves this game, yeah, I see these cards over and over and over, and so there is a desire in me to say, yeah, you know what, I could spend a little bit of money on a new Quicksilver card. That would be pretty cool. And I think that they've done a good job at, again, making that optional enough that it encourages me to do it. The one thing I will say is that for a game that is so focused on the artwork, I think it's such a huge part of the game and it's such a big part of the marketing. I do wish that they credited these artists a little bit more. I've played this game on Twitch a lot and had some really awesome conversations with people in chat. And a lot of people have asked me, like, oh, who is this artist? And sometimes I'm able to pick out the artist just because I know what their style looks like. But every now and again, I'm like, I have no idea who this is. And even Googling, the context of this card, it's kind of difficult to find out. I was told by somebody in chat that this is something that they're going to add, is kind of credit for each of the cards. And I hope that that's the case. But for now, I just wanted to say, like, I would have hoped that would have been part of the initial launch game, especially since they do talk about artwork a lot when it comes to the game. But putting that aside, I really love the artwork of these cards, and I think they did a really great job designing them all. And I'm excited to look at them, and I'm excited to play with them. Now, that being said, one of the other amazing things, and again, it's just amazing thing after amazing thing. I have criticisms of this game, but overall, I think this game is incredible. But another one of these amazing things is the characters that they chose for this game, the roster that they have. I've talked a lot in the past about how I'm not the biggest MCU fan. That doesn't mean that I hate the MCU. It's just not my preference. The same way people who, and people who hear me say that are always like, oh, why don't you like the MCU? And it's like, it's not that I don't like it. It's just not my, Marvel universe. The same way people who love the MCU don't really read comics. And if you ask them if they hate comics, they'd be like, oh, no, I don't hate comics. I just don't read them. I just watch the movies. That's the same way I feel about the movies, only in reverse. I don't hate the movies. I just, I prefer the comics. And so those versions of the characters are super important to me. And one of the big things about the MCU that is lame, in my opinion, is that when a version of the characters that they've adapted from the comics becomes popular in the MCU, then other adaptations will take that version. And I'm not saying that as, it's not the fault of the MCU. It's more so honestly, it's more so the fault of the comics, right? If the Guardians of the Galaxy movie comes out and they have this new adaptation of the Guardians, that is fantastic. I personally think it's one of the best MCU movies. But then the comics start suddenly making Star-Lord like the movies. That's more on the comics than anything else. But it does bother me. I don't like that media around Marvel just becomes MCU clones, for lack of a better term. And that's something that I'm always worried about with Marvel media. And I think while there are MCU versions of these characters, like I think the Ant-Man card, the vanilla Ant-Man card, the base Ant-Man card is very MCU, right? I think there's a lot a lot of characters in this game that have nothing to do with the MCU, both in their visual appearance, but also just the character themselves. Having Mr. Fantastic, I'm so happy about the fact that, here's the thing: the MCU not having mutants for so long, or the X-Men for so long, has made it that in other media, mutants and X-Men have been divorced from Marvel for a very long time, depending on the cartoon or even the comics or the video games that you play, because of the MCU's relationship with them. And it's just so refreshing to play this game where it's like, no, mutants are part of the Marvel Universe. Of course, we're going to just have tons of them. And, no, the Fantastic Four are just a part of the Marvel Universe. Of course, we're going to have, cards of them. They're iconic. And it just feels so genuine Marvel to not worry about what's in the MCU and just put in all of these characters. And then to go a step further from that and have characters that I typically don't see in any Marvel games. Like for me, like Quicksilver and like Namor. And obviously Quicksilver was in the MCU and Namor is in the MCU recently, but I just feel like these versions of these characters are very cool to see here, and there are tons of other characters that I don't typically get to see. Medusa is another example. I was very excited to see Medusa. Kazar was a huge example of that, or Kazar, depending on who you ask. But seeing Kazar in this game, I was so over the top. I was so over the moon to see that character, and there are a lot of characters like that. And I just can't say enough how much I appreciate the roster in this game and how many different characters they've chosen. And not really cared, whether they are in other Marvel media. That is one of like the biggest things that really hooks me about this game is, in my opinion, seeing the Marvel universe the way that I see it in the comics, where any character can show up at any time and it doesn't matter what licensing they have. You know what I mean? So I've really liked that as well. And I think that's another really, really, really cool part about this game. Couple of other things before I wrap up my thoughts. First of all, again, like I've said a couple of times already, I think the monetization is really good in this game. I think they were very close to having something not so great, but just this very casual cosmetic monetization, I think it works. Again, it's a game where you're looking at the same art for these cards all the time, and the art for these cards are beautiful. And on top of that, the base art for these cards, you can have them frame break and, 3D break and make them look really cool on their own, for free. But then you have this option to get new artwork for them, and I just think that that's really cool. As usual, there are going to be people who don't like monetization at all, and I get that, I totally do. But I think if you're going to have monetization, I think they did a pretty good job here in a way that doesn't feel super predatory. It feels very optional, and it feels very neat if you want to engage with it, which I like. And then some of the other cons that I have is that, the music in this game is good. I like it, but I don't love it. I feel like it could be better. It's a little, it's a little repetitive. I wish we had more music, maybe even different locations. Obviously, this game is very location-based, but maybe different, battlefields that have different music, or maybe you could set your own music, get a playlist. I don't know. Again, it's not bad music. It's actually, it's good music. It's just, I would say it's okay, not amazing. And then the last thing I'll say, and this is kind of like a weird criticism of the game, is I'm not a fan of the name. Obviously, Snap has significance to the MCU. I just talked a bunch about the MCU. And then also has significance to the snapping system, kind of this wager system in the gameplay. But I just don't think it's the most, I don't know. I guess there also references how quick gameplay is, but I just don't think it's the best name for the game. I feel like they could have come up with something cooler or more interesting, or something that represented the game a little bit better. But I mean, it's also not a terrible name. It's kind of like the music, right? Like, it's not the worst name. It's just, for me, it's a little general. I wish they had something a little bit more specific, but it's also not a bad name. So Marvel Snap, sure, but Marvel anything else? Also sure. And yes, so to wrap up my early thoughts on Marvel Snap, I just can't say enough how much I love this game. And, coming soon is the Carrot Scraps awards, the Orange Carrot Awards that we do every year. And, spoilers, this game is going to be a nominee for Game of the Year. Not Mobile Game of the Year. I saw, it being nominated for Mobile Game of the Year. Forget about that. I think this game is potentially my game of the year. It is a fantastic game. I am very enthusiastic about it. I am very over the moon about it. And, you can trust that I'm enthusiastic about this because I typically don't like mobile games and I don't want to spend time playing them. But this is such a good mobile game that, yeah, it might be my favorite game of the year. I like playing it. I like the gameplay. I love that it represents the Marvel Universe and the way that it represents the Marvel Universe. I love the way that it looks. It's designed well visually, both in artwork from the comics, but also the animation of the cards. The voice acting is really fun. It's crazy how much they've done to make this card game feel very three-dimensional, and I think that's good for a lot of non-card game players, but it's also a really good reward for card game players. Somebody who, like myself, who would be fine with it just being cards, it's cool to get these little animations and these little voice acting things. But more than anything else, I think the three biggest things about this game is it's available on PC. Thank goodness. Please bring it to other consoles. That's number 3. Number 2 is that it represents Marvel in probably one of the best ways I've seen a video game do it, or at least one of my favorite ways. I think that's probably better. I'm just very excited that it represents the Marvel Universe in this way, that I get to see characters like, Ben Grimm the Thing, a famous Marvel character that I rarely get to see, or Bishop, or Misty Knight, or Angela, from famous to obscure characters. These characters rarely get to be seen in Marvel media or Marvel games, and so it's so exciting as a fan of the Marvel Universe to get to see them in this game. That's number 2 for why I love this game so much. And then number 1, the main reason is the gameplay. It's fun to play. I really feel like I, am using these characters' powers and am fighting with these characters. It's very fun to try to outsmart my opponents. It's very fun to try and use them in interesting ways. Yeah, I just can't praise the gameplay enough. I absolutely love Marvel Snap. And, the best praise I can give it right now is that it's potentially my game of the year. So those are my early thoughts on Marvel Snap. And if you were hesitant about playing this game, I hope that I helped you come to a conclusion about it, because, I know a lot of people don't like playing card games, but I'd say broaden your horizon. Try to just give it a try, give it a shot. It's a free game. I think it's genuinely fantastic. I've actually had a couple people in my chat who told me that they weren't going to play, and then because I was so enthusiastic on stream, they decided to play it for themselves, and they've become addicted to the game. So if you're not into card games, or if you weren't going to play this because it's a card game, I implore you to reconsider. But if you are a card game fan and you don't typically play mobile games or whatever, if there was any reservation, I can't say enough. I loved this game and I highly recommend it. So I love Marvel Snap. That's all I have to say for now. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always going to make the videos that I want to make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. Over on Twitch, I typically play superhero games like Marvel's Avengers, Gotham Knights, and Marvel Snap, in addition to horror games every now and again like Evil Dead. But this month we've been celebrating Nintendo November, which means that we've been playing Nintendo games occasionally when we have the chance. So if that sounds interesting to you at all and you want to watch me play video games live, check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/carrotscraps. And all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are at carrotscraps as well. So I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. With a name like Marvel Snap, I feel like you could call it anything else, and it would have been equally fine. Like Marvel Edge, or Marvel Chrome, or Marvel Firefox. Like I feel like you could have named it anything else. It would have been just as good as Snap. Wait a second. Those are all just internet browsers, I think. Where's Marvel Snap? Where are you? Okay, here we go.